Story time about the psycho neighbor that stalked me. So, when I graduated college, I moved into a new apartment. When I first got there, I was moving my things in, and my neighbor introduced himself and helped me move a couple of things upstairs. After we had got done, he asked for my number, but I told him I wasn't really looking for a relationship. But he said, let's just swap numbers just in case, a fire happens. So I gave him my number, and I really didn't think nothing of it. Maybe a week later, he starts knocking on my door and giving me gifts just about every day, like teddy bears and flowers. Then maybe about 2 weeks later, I told him to stop because I wasn't really interested in him. So the next day, I wake up to make coffee and take out trash. When I pass my living room, the teddy bear gift that my neighbor gave me makes a click noise. When I quickly rip the teddy bear open, it's a camera inside. Like for part 2 about the psycho neighbor that stalked me. So, like I said earlier, the teddy bear gift that my neighbor had gave me makes a clicking noise. When I quickly rip the teddy bear open, it's a camera inside, and I go into a panic mode. Out of nowhere, there's a knock on my door, and it's my neighbor. He says, "Good morning, it's me again. You left your trash too close to the curb, so I moved it for you." I realized that my door was still open, so I try to run over and lock the door, but he just opens it. I yell at him, telling him to get out. He closes the door behind him and says, "That's no way to talk to a neighbor." I start backing up. He looks over and sees that I ripped the teddy bear apart. I didn't know what else to do, so I just ran to my room. And he chases after me and pulls my hair. Like for part 3. Part 3 about the psycho neighbor that stalked me. So he comes in, I run into my room, and he chases after me. Before I could get up, he pulls onto my hair and starts dragging me towards the kitchen. I saw the coffee that I had made earlier, and I was able to pick it up and throw the hot coffee in his face. He starts screaming loud, and I took that chance to run into my room and lock the door. I immediately start calling the police, and from there, it sounded like he ran out of my apartment. When the cops came, they're doing an investigation, and all the gifts that he gave me all had cameras in them. And when I told them about my neighbor, they did some digging, and come to find out, that man wasn't even my neighbor. He didn't even live at the apartment complex.
Storytime about how I was sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. So a little background information. This all happened last year. So originally I was working in a warehouse, but whenever COVID hit, lost my job, I had to get a new job. So I applied at Walmart in the electronics section because they paid more money, period. And on my second day, I finally went and started working in electronics. So they had asked some of the employees to show me around. So while this one employee was showing me around, he took me to the back where the photos were. Well, whenever I got back there, this employee named Terry said, "Oh, she's mine." I just laughed and brushed it off because I felt super uncomfortable and awkward. And he knew I was underage because my name tag was yellow. But even after that, he still kept coming up to me, calling me weird names, just being a total creep. Like, he would keep coming up to me and get super close to me to the point where I could literally feel him fucking breathing on my face. So of course I told my manager about it. They said he's done this before, so I was like, why the fuck is he still here? So they moved me to garden. And while I was working in the gardening section, I met this guy named Jordan. Like for a part 2. Part 2 of how I was sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. Something I forgot to mention in the first part, I reported Terry several times and they still did nothing about it. So like I said, then I met this kid Jordan, him and I started getting close, and work actually started to become fun. Well, finally, after a month, we decided that we were going to go out to lunch during work. So the day that we went out to lunch, he kept telling me that he needed to tell me something. But he was like beating around the bush the whole time. Like for some reason, he just couldn't get out what he wanted to tell me. But then he kept trying to change the subject like he wasn't the one who brought it up in the first place. I should have took that as a red flag before we went to lunch, but I didn't. So he keeps going on about it in the car, right? And then he's like, "I'm not really 20, I'm 25 turning 26. So then for some reason after that, whenever he saw my mood change, this guy has the audacity to start touching my legs, fucking rubbing my inner thigh and shit. I kept telling him to stop. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? So then I told him I'm getting out of the car. And he says, "I'm not gonna let you," like for part 3. Part 3 of how I got sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. So like I said, he wouldn't let me out of the car, but then we got back to work. And then he had the audacity to keep asking if I was okay when he literally just sexually harassed me in the car. So I went to the bathroom, literally had a whole fucking mental breakdown. I called my mom to come get me because I was not finna stay there. So the next time that I went back to work, I grabbed my stuff and I gave it to one of the workers to go and give to a manager and tell them that I was quitting. Well, one of the managers caught me walking out the back door and she was like, "What's wrong?" So I immediately broke down. I started telling her what was going on. And then a crowd of people came around us being nosy as fuck, listening to what I was saying. And she was like, "You're not quitting. I'm going to take care of this." So she sent me home and she said that she would call me whenever it was taken care of. So 2 days goes past. I'm like, why the fuck hasn't she called? So then I call and I found out that she fired me. So I reported everything to Walmart ethic team and they just closed my case. They basically didn't do shit about it. Oh, and Jordan wasn't really a manager. He was a supervisor. Should I try to take this to court?
Story time on how my wig came off in front of my date. The guy I was meeting up with on the date was one of my friend's co-workers. She actually set us up because she thought that he would be my type. Fast forward, we go to Fridays and we're having a great time. And he seems like a nice all-around type of guy. Now, that day, my wig was slayed, and I believe the hair was like 30 inches. When the waitress comes over, she gives me and my date our plate of food. Before she leaves, she asks us if there anything else we needed. We said no. Then she put a pen that she had in her hand in her back pocket, and like I said before, my hair was really long, and she ended up sweeping a few of my hairs in her pocket. When the waitress walks away, my wig pops off, and me and my date are in shock. He stares at me for a good 10 seconds, and I tell him I needed to go to the bathroom, and I also got my wig back. But when I come back out to apologize and continue our date, he disappears. Oh yeah, and I also ended up paying for the whole date.
I had a crush on my brother's best friend. We're gonna call him Pedro. One day, my brother and Pedro had a plan to go to the beach together, and then Pedro invited me. And I was like, let me check if I have something to do. I don't. I'm going. I'm gonna go, Pedro. Don't worry. The night before, I was like, I need to look scandalous. Like, so scandalous. So I remember I wore this two-piece bathing suit. So long story short, the day came and we went to the beach. So we get to the water and immediately I go in. I wanted to show him, like, I'm a bra girl. Oh, this is the best part. So I'm coming out of the water and I'm trying to look like a baddie. Like, I'm trying to walk out all cute, like the hair is wet and everything. And I noticed Pedro was looking at my legs. So I was like, maybe he's trying to shoot his shot. So I went to go tell him something. And I was like, why do you keep looking at me? And he was like, look at your legs. I look at my legs. There's a whole ass piece of poop from the beach water.
This is why you should never spend the night on Niku Muroro Island. In 1937, while on her flight around the world, Amelia Earhart mysteriously vanished over Howland Island in the Pacific Ocean. Despite an enormous search, she was never found. 3 years after her disappearance, a scientist discovered an incomplete skeleton on this tiny, uninhabited island called Niku Muroro Island that wasn't too far from Howland Island. It looked like whoever's bones these were, they had been ripped limb from limb. But when the bones were examined, they determined they were not Amelia Earhart's. But in 2017, a forensic anthropologist re-examined the bones and determined they were almost definitely Amelia's. So scientists went to Niku Muroro Island and they found freckle cream, something Amelia was famous for using. So the working theory is she crash-landed on Niku Muroro Island and she fell asleep somewhere on the beach. Then, after smelling her blood, hundreds of 3-foot-wide coconut crabs came out of their burrows, swarmed her, and ate her.
Storytime about how I found out that my mom was sleeping with my history teacher to get me better grades. So it was my junior year of high school, and everybody knows that your junior year is the most important year of high school. If you didn't, well, now you know. My brother was in his senior year of high school, and when he was a junior, he had the same teacher, so he knew how hard the class was. So he would stay up with me every night helping me to pass my history class. Well, the one day I'm at school and I'm taking a test, and I literally did not know anything on the test. And I studied the night before for literally 4 hours straight. So I decided to copy off the girl next to me. Well, a few days later, we get our test back, and I'm looking at mine, and I got a 97%. And then I look over to the girl next to me, she got a 33%. And then I started going through the tests, none of the essay questions looked like my handwriting, but I didn't say anything because I wanted that A. Well, the one night, I'm sitting down with my family having dinner, and I told them that I copied off the girl next to me, and how I got a 97% and she got a 33%, and my brother flips out like for part 2. Part 2 of my mom sleeping with my history teacher to get me better grades. So like I said, I told my parents that I got a 97, she got a 33. And I was telling them how the handwriting didn't even look like mine and everything. And then my brother starts flipping out. In front of my dad, too. He goes, Mom, are you fucking serious? You couldn't let her try and do this on her own? And I was super confused. Like, I thought that maybe he was talking about my mom paid off the teacher. But then he said, yeah, Dad, if you didn't know, Mom's been fucking our history teacher to get us better grades. And then he goes, Mom, you're such a fucking whore. And my mom's sitting there not even fazed. She just took a drink of her wine and said, "Get the fuck upstairs now." Before my brother leaves the table, he goes, "Maybe you can fuck dad's boss too. Maybe he'll get a raise." And then I realized what was happening. And it's around 6:30 p.m. So after that, a lot of stuff happened. My dad obviously wanted to get a divorce at that point. So my dad took my brother and I to our grandparents, and we stayed with them for like 2 weeks. But then everybody at school found out, and we got made fun of a lot. And then after that, we moved schools. Terrifying story about me going to get my IUD. So my boyfriend's mom and my friend went and took me to the doctors to get my IUD. And yes, I said my boyfriend's mom because if my parents knew, they would have killed me. So everything's normal. I go in the room, get undressed, sit up on the table, put my legs up on that thing. And next thing I know, 8 male student doctors walk in the room and are all looking at my cooch. All of them. So then my doctor walks in and he's like, "Kaylee, we're gonna have one of my students put in your IUD. Like, oh great, I'm already scared as shit. Thanks. So they open up my cooch. All 8 doctors are looking in my fucking vagina inside. And he goes to put it in. The first time. And I was already scared because I knew that it fucking hurts. So it's in, everything's good. He goes to cut the string and fucking pulls it out. I was already in excruciating pain. So they let him do it a second time. And he does the exact same fucking thing. I was about to kick him in the face.
Ladies, this is the reason why you need to watch your surroundings, even in the daylight. So earlier this morning, I had to go to the dentist to get my teeth cleaned. Here's my little baggie. My mom, she couldn't really take me, so I had to take public transportation. And I'm from Philly, so I took SEPTA. So the trolley station was a couple blocks away from my dentist's office. So as I start walking, there's a man behind me yelling and shouting. And he walks around me, and so I'm thinking he's probably talking to somebody else. So he turns around, come towards me, and starts telling me, "Y'all black, she's just weird." So I'm like, obviously this man is crazy, so like, let me continue minding my business. Then he walked up to me again, asking me why am I following him. So I keep walking, ignoring this man. Then he runs behind me and tries to snatch my purse. And literally, it's broad daylight. Alright, I'm running out of time. Y'all let me know if I should make a part 2. This is part 2 on why you ladies need to really watch your surroundings, even in the broad daylight. So, like I said before, I'm on my way to the dentist, and this man is literally shouting at me, and I'm ignoring him. And this man literally runs from behind me and snatches my purse. And guys, my purse is not even snatchable. This is my purse right here. It's like a basketball purse or whatever. And the thing is, my jacket was over my purse. So when he tried to yank my purse, he yanked me, and I fell on the ground. And as he was pulling on my purse, he was basically dragging me. But luckily, there was like an older man outside, and he took his stick, well, his cane, and he started hitting the man with the cane, and he just ran off. See, this is the type of stuff that happened in movies. Like, I would have never thought in a million years that would ever happen. I really don't feel comfortable walking around here no more.
This is why you should never play hide and seek. A mom decided to play hide and seek with her 2 kids. The mom began counting, ready or not, here I come. She begins searching the downstairs kitchen because she knows that they hide there every single time. As she's walking to the kitchen, she starts saying, I wonder where they are. She looks under the table and sees they aren't there, which is kind of odd. She knew they were too scared to go into the basement alone, but she decided to check anyway. They weren't there either. She began to panic. The mom then says, "Jordan, Casey, come out now. Mommy's not playing anymore." There was no answer. Panic really begins to set in. She decides to call 911 and reaches an operator. She tells the operator what's wrong, and the operator sends an officer to her house. Once the officer arrives, he says, "Don't worry, we will find them." As she's sitting in the living room, she hears giggling and laughing and hears a closet door slam upstairs. She sprints upstairs and says, "Jordan, Casey, you worried me sick." She opened the closet door and nobody was there. While all of this is going on, she hears the doorbell ring. She runs downstairs and finds the officer holding Jordan and Casey. The officer says they were hiding in the shed out back. Then Jordan looks at mommy and says, "Why were you telling us to stay in the
Be careful on who you decide to meet up with on a dating app because you might just end up on a date with a narcissist. When I was in Denver, I ended up matching with a really hot 39-year-old who also happened to be a lawyer. I recently called off an engagement, so casually dating other people was kinda in the books for me. Before meeting him, I made sure I took all the usual precautions. We made it very, very clear what our boundaries were and said that there was no expectations. So like either of us could leave after a drink and it would be totally fine. Also, we made sure to FaceTime and he seemed super sweet, totally normal. However, the second we sat down, it seemed like he was on drugs. He would literally talk a million miles an hour about himself and wouldn't let me get a breath in. And the stuff he was bringing up was just odd. Like he even included that he broke off an engagement too. Hold on to that thought. 2 drinks in, this man leans over and says, "I've been diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenic disorder, but I didn't want to talk about it over text." Because I don't know a whole lot about those mental disorders, I felt a little uncomfy. I also didn't feel like that was a first date topic. Then he literally starts joking about murdering me and states that he would use my dead body for Face ID to text my friend that I'm safe so the timing is off for the investigation. Like for part 2. Part 2 of going on a date with a narcissist. So I start getting uncomfy and getting ready to leave. He offers to call a car and I say, oh no, it's fine, you got my drink, I'm just gonna go. And he gets confused and he's like, wait, what's going on here? Are we not going home together? I expressed that I was just tired and I wanted to get back to my hotel so that I could sleep and get on the road in the morning. He could not have been more offended by this and kept trying to make sexual comments to get me to come back to his place. Like, no, that's creeping me out more. So I get into my Uber and I make it home alone. And he texts me, tell Elise I said happy birthday tomorrow. That is my mom's name and it was her birthday tomorrow, but I didn't tell him any of this information over drinks. That's when I realized he had found my Facebook and then he called me. He proceeded to go off and lecture me because he couldn't comprehend why I wouldn't sleep with someone as great as he is. He expressed how much better he is than my ex-fiance, who I never brought up over dinner. This is when he let me know that he did his research on me before even meeting me. And I realized that a lot of the conversations that we had over drinks was him just verifying that I was the same person he found on Facebook. He still contacts me and I don't know what to do or say. Follow for more.
This girl literally lived a nightmare. A 17-year-old girl was watching TV late at night when her motion detector lights in her driveway suddenly went on. She assumed it was just an animal, so she got up, drew the blinds, and went back to watching TV. Then a little bit later, it happened again. Before she could even react, she looks over and clearly makes out a silhouette of a person right behind the blinds who starts banging aggressively on the window. The girl stands up and goes, "I'm gonna call the cops!" And the figure stops for just a second, sprints to the side door and starts pounding even louder on that, screaming incoherently. The girl runs to the bathroom, barricades herself inside while she waits for the police, and then her worst nightmares come true. She hears glass shatter in the other room. After a few minutes of silence, she opens her door just a crack to get a peek outside, and standing in her living room next to a broken window is some crazy old woman who looks over at her and starts sprinting toward her. The lady comes smashing into the door and starts wailing on it until the police arrive and take her away. She was a lunatic who had escaped her facility.
So when I was getting ready for school one day, I picked up some lotion and was going to put it on my face. It looked a little weird, but I figured my mom bought me some new lotion. So when I got to school, everyone was staring at me, but I didn't know why. I see my friend Zion, I asked him, yo, why is everyone staring at me? It might be because of your face. I ain't never seen your face that smooth. My face is smooth? What the heck is he talking about? So I went to the bathroom to see what he was talking about. Woo, my face is smooth. It must be that new lotion. So I went back outside smiling because my face is smooth. All of a sudden, Brayden comes up to me and smacks a piece of paper on my face. Oh, everyone, Desmond's wearing makeup. I didn't know it was makeup. I didn't know. I thought it was lotion. What more do you want from me? Stop it.
Story time to when I was sleeping with my dad's wife. So my mom and my dad got divorced when I was 16. And my mom decided to move to a different city, so I would only see my dad on holidays or when I was on vacation. And I just want to say I've always liked girls, and both of my parents knew that. So when I was about 18, my dad got married to his girlfriend that he met right after he divorced my mom. And I didn't really like her at the time, but I did try my best to have a good relationship with her for my dad. So a couple months after the wedding, it was summertime and I went to go visit. And I just want to say my dad worked a lot. That's the main reason my mom and him got divorced. So I spent most of my summer with his wife. We would go out shopping, we would have movie nights, just us two alone. Come back for part 2. Part 2 on how I was sleeping with my dad's wife. So she's always been super nice to me. She always let me do whatever I wanted. I think she just wanted to be close to me. She was in her 40s and she never wanted to have any kids. So I guess she treated me like her kid. But here comes the juicy part. The weekend before I went home, my dad went on a business trip. It was just a one-day business trip. He was going to be back the next day. So we decided to have a little girls' night. I was 18, I wasn't allowed to drink, but she let me drink. Also, I smoked a little something before, and we were having a great night. I decided I wanted to watch a movie, and she said okay. And I'm gonna be real with y'all. I made the first move. I was drunk. I was high, so I would say it was my fault. We first started making out, and I really liked it. She really liked it. So things started to get hot. Next is part 3 of sleeping with my dad's wife. And yes, we had sex. Yes, I had sex with a 40-year-old woman. So after everything, we promised we could not talk about it and that it would never happen again. Also, she told me she was really happy with my dad and that it happened because we just had a few too many drinks. Long story short, I went back home. I was already out of school. So a month after that, she asked me to move in with them. And I agreed. So y'all know that every time my dad wasn't there, we would do the dirty. And that went on for 2 years. After that, we decided to end everything. Everything ended in good terms. My dad never found out. I ended up moving out, and every time we're together, things are really awkward.